Hello again. In this short video I'm going to talk to you about the problem that you get when you have dust on the sensor of your mirrorless or DSLR camera and what you can do about it. So dust is a bit of a problem with modern digital cameras. Prevention is better than the cure, so if you can avoid getting the dust on the sensor in the first place, that's a good thing. So what I would tend always to do is, if you need to change the lens, that's when you get the dust inside the camera body, and that's when it ends up on the sensor. So if you can avoid changing lenses anywhere where it's very dusty or dirty or windy, you don't really want to be doing it on the beach on a windy day, that's a good thing. No matter where you change your lenses, it's always a good idea to change them as quickly as possible. Don't leave the camera body open to the atmosphere, because that's when you tend to get problems with dirt getting in there. Now, dust usually shows up on your photographs as a series of soft grey blobs. You tend to notice them on the blank areas of the photograph, particularly the sky. They will always appear in the same place on each photograph. But if you think you might have a dust problem on your sensor, there's quite an easy way to check for it. This is the way I do it. So what I've got is a large piece of white card here. It doesn't have to be quite as big as this, and I'm going to set my camera to aperture priority. I've already set the ISO to something fairly low. I'm going to set the camera to aperture priority, and I'm going to set it to the smallest aperture that my lens will allow me to do, which in this case is f22. Now, because that's a very small aperture, the shutter speed is now quite long. It's gone up to nearly 2 seconds. We want that, okay? So all I'm going to do is set the zoom to the widest angle, if you've got a zoom on there. Make sure it's out of focus, make sure the lens isn't focused on the piece of card, and we're just going to take a photograph. And we're going to, if you notice, I'm moving the camera during the exposure. The reason for that is when we look at the image either on the camera or on the computer later, you can see that any marks on there won't be from the card, because the exposure is 2 seconds long, so any sort of little marks on the card will be completely blurry. So when you look at that photograph that any little blobs or marks are on the sensor itself. Okay, so you can see on this screen grab we have got 1 or 2 dust marks. It's not too bad, but there are a couple of little dots there that I'd like to get rid of. So we've got a couple of options for removing those marks. The first one and the easiest one is actually to get your camera to clean itself. Now, some of you might have this set up when you switch the camera on or off. You might notice on the screen on the back of the camera it says sensor cleaning. If you don't have that, you can actually set it. Most DSLR and mirrorless cameras have got this option. If you go into the menu setting, there is a sensor clean option there. And if I press the OK button now, it'll either ask me, do I want to clean the sensor when I switch the camera on or off, or do I want to clean it now? Well, I want to clean it now, so press OK again, and it'll come up with a little display saying sensor cleaning. Takes about a second. So what that sensor cleaning actually does is just to vibrate the sensor very rapidly, the idea being that any dust drops off. It works some of the time. So what you can do is, once you've done that, you can take another photograph of your piece of card, check to see if there's been any changes, if that dust's gone. If it has, great. If it hasn't, you've got a second option, and that is a blower, like one of these. Okay, now these are they just puff air. Don't use the compressed air, the aerosol ones, to clean sensors. They can actually make the situation worse. And also I would suggest just the blower. Don't use the ones with the brushes. We just want to puff air. We don't want to touch the sensor with anything other than the equipment that's designed specifically to clean sensors. So cleaning the sensor with a puffer. First of all, I'm going to make sure I've got a fully charged battery, which I have. Second of all, I'm going to change the shutter speed to the longest shutter speed that my camera will do. Now, some cameras will do mirror lockup. They won't all do this, so I'll show you how to do it this way. So my camera will go up to 30 seconds, which is a 30 with a little double dash after it. I can take the lens off the camera. And what I'm actually doing is I'm holding the body pointing straight downwards. The idea with this is if any dust does come out of this, it falls out rather than just, coming back in again. So if I press the shutter release button, the sensor's exposed to the air now, and I'm just going to give it 4 or 5 squirts if you notice, I'll switch that off so the shutter closes. If you notice, I didn't shove the nozzle of this right inside the camera. We don't want to be touching that on the sensor. They're quite delicate things, you know. So hopefully that should shift the dirt. So we've tried blowing air at it. We take another photograph with a piece of card, have another look on the computer screen or by zooming into the back of the camera. If you've still got marks or dust, your third option is to use a sensor cleaning kit. Now you can do that yourself. You can buy them on Amazon or on eBay, and you can clean your own sensor. They come with instructions. If you feel a bit unconfident about doing that, then most camera shops will do it for you. They'll charge you a few pounds, but they will clean the sensor for you. So it depends on how confident you feel with doing a sort of delicate operation like that. It's not too difficult, but that's your third option. But as I said before, don't touch anything on the sensor except for a proper sensor cleaning swab. Don't be tempted to use sort of cotton wool or anything like that, because you might make the situation worse. And if you end up scratching the sensor, it's a very expensive repair. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in the next video. That's the man that leads rocking on the sea.